believe we're live, and we're at 7 o'clock. So full agenda. We'll get started, and we'll get the echo. Take care of feedback. We'll start with a pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, is the echo done? Perfect. All right. I'll keep this back for now. And we will start with roll call of commission members. District 1, J.C. Wienerman. Present. District 2, Sean Blackburn.
Right.
District 3, Jason Throw, that's me, and I'm here. District 4, Kip Osmond.
Here.
District 5, Mike Krell. Here. At-large Rich Blankish.
I am here.
And at-large Jeff Bertram.
Here.
And we have our County Commissioner Representative Joe Person. Thank you. Okay. All right. Very good. Got a few things going. Are we okay to keep going? All right. Agenda item number 1. Yeah.
We've lost our screen.
It's not muted. Oh, I'm muted. I'll try it again. Yeah, it was on. It was muted. That's okay. All right, Shelley, what would you say?
It's like a mirror showing multiple pictures. Okay.
Audio check. Feels a little like Star Wars. Audio test. A little better. It looks better. Sounds a little better. We'll give it a try. All right, agenda item number 1, that's to consider a conditional use permit request submitted by Monica Cahoe, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Trust in Richmond, Minnesota for an after-fact major shoreline alteration according to section 10.2.141 and 10.2.14B of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439 for retaining walls greater than 4 feet of cumulative height within the building setback and topographical alteration. Property under consideration is Lot 4, Block 1 of the Singing Hills in Section 30 of Wakefield Township. Property address is 195 Baywood Court in Richmond, Minnesota. Real quick, we'll call the members who visited this site. Jason? Yes. Sean?
Yes.
Thank you. I also was able to. Ken?
Yes.
Mike? Yeah. Seen a few. As they work through the audio, we'll just finish up those that were able to visit the site. Yes, Jeff? Yes. And Joe. Once we get the audio down.
Testing. Joe, can you hear me?
No, I can't. Can you hear me? Is there coming up? It's exactly the same.
All the people online, I don't think so. Yeah, if we didn't have all the virtual ones, we could roll. Yeah, can try testing. How's that? Yeah, it does. Why don't you guys chime in?
Testing.
And Deb, just let us know if they're unable to hear online. So I saw some chats coming through earlier. So if anyone is listening online and you can kind of confirm through the chat that you can hear, you send something out, it would be appreciated. Perfect. I think we can hear him. I would say we should be good for proceeding next, so why don't we get into staff report?
Sure. Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this is an after fact making from an operation request. This parcel size is approximately 1.6 acres above the ordinary high water level. There is more lot size, but a lot of it is underwater. Steep slope area, project area. The remainder of the property in the shore impact zone is relatively flat and also in the floodplain. These are loamy sand soils. There's lawn for much of the yard in terms of vegetation. There are trees and shrubs along much of the shoreline and floodplain area and on the peninsula. The septic system did have a compliance inspection and is considered compliant. It's in the R1 zoning district. Cedar Island Lake is impaired for elevated nutrient levels. Some property history. Myself and the DNR hydrologist were on site previously, about 3 years ago, for a separate request considering where the ordinary high water level was for the peninsula to achieve access out there. That was kind of unrelated to the work that took place here. In July, we received a report of shoreline work being completed without a permit. So then we followed up with a site visit and violation letters. And then September 19th is when we receive the final application materials and the septic system compliance inspection. There's 3 separate retaining walls with 9 feet of cumulative wall height, located approximately 75 feet from the ordinary high water level. The heights and lengths are listed. There's roughly 45 cubic yards of topographic alteration done for construction of the retaining walls and the associated grading activities next to the walls and the patio area. When I did my site visit, sediment control and erosion control were not on site to control erosion or sediment control. So the shoreline contractor is Groundsman Outdoor Services. They're not licensed. They did pay their $1,000 unlicensed shoreline contractor fee and will be required to attend the next shoreline workshop to maintain the license. There are a couple of conditions listed to be considered if the proposal is granted. The first one is that a native plant buffer of 20 feet in length, 30 feet in depth shall be established down the slope of the retaining walls. An infiltration area to capture directed runoff from the project area is also required, and the department shall approve both the vegetation plan as well as the infiltration area plan after receiving the plans by November 15th of this year, with construction to take place by May 31st of next year. And number 2, a financial guarantee would be required for the native buffer as well. We did receive one comment, and that was from the Sauk River Watershed District, that they would also require a permit for the grading and erosion control permit that they issue, so that would be a requirement as well. Apart from that, I didn't receive any written correspondence.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here on this one, or were they?
Yes.
Checking. Okay, the applicant. You said they are physically here? If you want to come up and just state your name and address for the record. Yeah, right, sorry, I'm sorry, right down here.
My name is Tanner Keir, and my address is 315 9th Avenue South in Cold Spring, Minnesota, and I was the contractor for the project.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything you would add to the staff report?
I don't have anything specific to add unless you have any upfront questions.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions for the applicant prior to, I guess, looking into the public hearing end?
Mr. Chair, one question for the contractor. So there are the 3 walls. On the second wall, so there's the patio wall, on the patio wall nearest to the lake. How deep does that go into the ground?
Are you referring to the lowest section of the wall?
So there's the planting bed. That's the lowest wall. Then there's the patio area. That's the wall I'm wondering about. Yes, that one. Thank you.
Yeah, the middle tier wall, I believe that was footed 12 inches deep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for staff or the applicant? All right, then we'll move on to the public hearing. Is anyone here for the public on this agenda item? All right, I'm not seeing anything online, so motion should be in order.
We'll move to close.
Thanks, motion made by Rich.
I'll second that.
Second by Ken. I'm sorry, Mike, next to me. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Oh, okay.
Motion to reopen the public hearing.
Thank you, Jason. All right. Reopen. I don't think we had totally voted, so we're good. All right, very good. And then if you want to state your name and address for the record.
Rita Peterson, 21853 Forest Hill Road, Richmond. And I just wanted to say that I've seen this project and I really like it, and it will slow down the water drainage from rainstorms and improve drainage so much. And so, as a neighbor, I approve of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, does anyone else here from the public? Come on up. And then just same as before, just name and address for the record, so, thanks.
Kelly Riffsland, 19214 Faywood Court. So just a few houses down from Monica. And just wanted to say it's really nice to see improvements in the neighborhood. That was a sloping area with drainage problems, and I think that's going to help, help the improvement, with the lake and everything that way.
Okay, very good, thank you. All right, anyone else from the public on this item? All right, seeing none, then we'll go back to the motion made by Rich and seconded by Mike to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, public hearing closed. Any further discussion on this before we go to the finding of facts? All right, hearing none, we can move into the finding of facts. Number one, can the applicant sufficiently document the alteration was done to protect water quality, improve aesthetics, control erosion, or enhance habitat? Please describe. With these being after the fact, there's a slightly different set of findings of facts than what's going to be in the packet.
Mr. Chairman, the findings that you're going off aren't in the packet?
No.
I'm just curious why not.
Yeah, I was informed earlier that these would be the findings of facts that apply to after the fact shoreland, and it's a little different than what was in the packet. Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, I do not believe we have documentation that was designed to protect water quality, improve aesthetics, or control erosion. There was nothing stated by that in terms of the applicant on file.
Very true.
Mr. Chair, I would add that we do address that a little bit. Greg Berg's letter talked about that, and it is incorporated in the first condition with the vegetation plan and infiltration plan is kind of addressed in that respect, coming from the other side.
But let's go back to the other screen. That was up there prior to this. Yes, number one, it's is it sufficiently documented that the alteration was done to protect? Greg's thing is after the fact, what they have to do to try to patch it up, so to speak.
So I think it'd be fair in saying that it probably hasn't been documented by the applicant, although with the conditions now being addressed, some of those things would be, to protect water quality, are being addressed.
Quite
to your point.
What he suggests.
Yep, by the watershed district. Yep.
And it's just that the
It wasn't planned.
the wording and the onus of who is responsible when
Yep.
is a little different.
Yep. And whether or not it does address water, should we have some public testimony that would say that it did improve that? It just wasn't documented as part of the application process. All right, anything else on one? And we'll go to two. Why did the applicant fail to obtain an alteration permit or comply with the requirements before commencing work?
We don't know.
Mr. Chair, I talked to the landowner and she said the age-old thing. We didn't know we had to get a permit. And I said, well, your contractor should have known. Well, he didn't know either. I said, well, maybe you didn't have a licensed contractor. Well, that's what it came down to.
I think some of that's been addressed now with some finding and future requirements. Number 3, did the applicant obtain all of the required permits and comply with other requirements?
Mr. Chair, as per the Sauk River Watershed District comment, they appear to be missing a watershed district permit, so that would be a no.
Number 4 is the alteration in a sensitive area.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
It's within the Shoreline Overlay District.
On all sides.
On all sides, yeah. Number 5 is the alteration visible from the lake or public water.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is visible. Thank you, Rich. Number 6, does the alteration affect the character of the neighborhood, or will it result in a substantial detriment to the neighboring properties? I would say in this case it's actually appropriate for the property and does not negatively impact the neighborhood. Anyone see it differently?
No.
Okay. Number 7, did the alteration reduce or eliminate an existing buffer between the overhead water, the ordinary high water level, impervious surfaces, or create a more direct conduit for storm water to flow into public waters? And I think, and also by looking at it on site, I would say that it maybe initially did increase. However, with the conditions, that probably will allow it to decrease the conduit of stormwater. Does anyone see that differently? All right, number 8, did the alteration change or damage any of the following? Aesthetics, vegetative buffer, stormwater management system, water quality, character, erosion of sediment control, fish or wildlife habitat.
The aesthetics, it probably makes it look a little nicer than, you don't see the old shed that's behind it quite as easily, but I don't know that it affected most of the other things.
Yeah. Thank you, Ken. Any other thoughts on that one? Would tend to agree.
We don't know if that was a mowed lawn area or if there was natural vegetation growing there, brush and what have you.
Yeah.
So we don't know.
The challenging part of an after the fact, yeah. All right, number 9, could the applicant mitigate the damage or change without removing the alteration and restoring the site?
Mr. Chair, I think he can. I think with some of these steps and putting in the vegetative buffer and addressing the stormwater before it gets to the lake, I think that's a yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would add, had this gone through the proper channels, it'd been nice to address a lot of these items beforehand. The project itself seems reasonable with the runoff mitigation efforts. Had it come through in the proper channels, it's something that probably would have been very fitting for the spot. It's just nice to do that ahead of time. 10, would the minimum benefits to the county appear to be far outweighed by the detriment the applicant would suffer if forced to restore the alteration? I think with the conditions addressing the water runoff, I do not believe that the benefit to the county would far outweigh the detriment to the applicant in this case. Does anyone see it differently?
This is a board of adjustment question that comes up all the time.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
That's an interesting question in the way you present the answer. But if there's a violation there, detriment because there's a violation, and you're allowing the violation to proceed, whereas if you had everything else, there would have been no violation, no concern. Now we have a violation.
That's a fair question. I think that you have to separate the two, though. So the violation needs to be addressed for the violation, which I think it has been. Then you have to look at what's been done. And I kind of go back to the lens of, if this would have come ahead of time as a major shoreline alteration to the Planning Commission, would there have been objections to it?
Yes.
What would we have done different?
Well, right now we're sitting with more than double the height of block wall, whatever you want to call it. And to rectify that, we would have to take about a foot off of each one of those terraces to fall within regulations. So that's what we're sitting with.
True statement.
So what can we do about that?
Yeah.
Does the contractor have to come back and rectify the mistake?
Well, if it didn't exceed, and staff correct me if I'm wrong, if it didn't exceed the 4 feet in height, it wouldn't have needed a major. It could have been handled through a minor, correct?
Sure, that's correct. If it's over 4 feet, then that's what requires a conditional use permit. If it's under 4 feet, it's administratively done with a minor permit.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Jason.
And Mr. Chair, just from what I saw on the site, as you mentioned, we'll never know what would have happened had we had the proper process. So that's figuring out what's happening. There's the patio deck, which is one major construction. Then there are 2 planting beds above and below it. And that's where I'm concerned. They've reshaped the shoreline to install planting beds. I think had they not put the planting beds in, that would have been minor. I think it's 3.5 feet, you said, something like that. So had they come with this, I am predicting that we would have questioned the 2 planting beds in terms of that installation. Because the planting beds are there for aesthetic purposes.
Yeah. We could request, excuse me, planting some kind of buffer, shrubbery or something to bring down the height of the walls visually when citizens use the waterway and look back up that way.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the pictures, I'm thinking, yeah, it would bring down the height of the walls.
All right.
So that could be part of our recommendation to the county board.
Yep, so I'm open to any recommendations anyone has when it comes to the shoreline alteration side of it.
Mr. Chair, I know this is going to run into a little bit of a buzzsaw, but why not? So a third condition would be to leave the middle wall intact and have them remove and restore the site with the upper and lower walls removed.
Okay, and then the purpose of that would be to prevent runoff or to change aesthetics?
It restores the natural flooding of the site. They'd replant it with the buffer on the downslope. You'd have a deeper infiltration site. So you'd restore the aesthetics and the natural functioning of the site.
Okay. All right, so that would be a third condition. Any other comments on that?
My thought is if they put a plant buffer in, won't that kind of serve the same purpose to slow up or stop the water?
The way I look at it, I don't have an issue with that. There's a retaining wall there because there's always been a slope. The biggest thing to me, I mean, there's the aesthetic side, and Jason mentioned it would change the aesthetics. That's true. From a water runoff, I don't know that that makes a big difference if you have the vegetation to slow and stop the runoff from getting to the lake. But that's my opinion. So we have a couple options out there. Any other discussion on this item?
Chair, I guess I would like to perhaps see some form of mitigation, and all be removed. Then the vegetation is redirect. Again, we're seeing these time and time again, and it seems like that seems to be the policy is just go ahead and do something that you want to do on your property, and then come back and see if you can do it after the fact. And I would have preferred, of course, it going through the regular means, but that didn't happen. So some form of mitigation, I think, is somewhat appropriate. I don't know what the rest of the board feels.
Mr. Chair, so I will make a motion. Being a reasonable man who can listen to discussion. So I recommend we move approval of the after the fact permit with the two conditions plus the removal of the bottom wall restored to natural conditions with a plant buffer.
All right. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Motion made by Jason, second by Rich, to recommend approval with the two conditions that were part of the application and a third condition to remove the lowest planter wall and restore that with the slope and the same buffer mix that would apply to the rest of the area. All right. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. So motion to recommend approval with that third condition to remove the lowest wall. And if there's any other questions you'd have on that one, you can just work with the county staff to work through those efforts. All right? Okay. Thank you. All right. Agenda item number 2, and that is, go ahead.
So Nick, you understand if the landowners call you, you're good with that, where we're going? Okay. All right, just making sure. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jason. All right, agenda item number 2, and that's to consider a conditional use permit request submitted by David Metz Living Trust of Shoreview, Minnesota for an after-the-fact major shoreline alteration according to section 10.2.14D of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439 for topographic alteration within the shore impact zone. Property under consideration is 5.2 acres in the northeast quarter lying north of Edgeview Road in section 31 of Wakefield Township. Property address 18602 Edgeview Road in Richmond. Real quick, roll call of members that visited the site. Jason?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
I also did. Ken?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Jeff? Yes. Joe? Yes. All right, very good. All right. We will move into the staff report. Nick, if you're ready to go.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this property on Edgeview Road has a steep slope across much of the property and across the road. This contributes to runoff that flows through the property in kind of a perennial stream that flows into the floodplain area to the shoreline. The soils here are loamy sand and sandy loam. Some vegetation disturbance took place during the project, and it can be seen in the disturbed areas. Some of that did start to regrow here over the course of the application process. A compliance inspection of the septic system was scheduled on the 6th of October. We haven't received it yet, but the property owner stated that it was scheduled for that day. Cedar Island Lake, again, has elevated nutrient levels. Some property history here. In 2014, there was a CUP approved for the retaining walls on the slope. In 2017, there was an after-the-fact conditional use permit approved for some dirt work to clean out that drainage way where that stream goes through, and then additional retaining walls on the slope, which you likely saw when you were on site. On July 25th, we received a report that shoreline work was being completed on the property without a permit. So we followed up with a site visit and violation letter to the property owner. Essentially here, there's topographic alteration that was completed within the shore impact zone across a considerable portion of the shoreline, approximately 150 feet. And then an area of sand was placed, 30 feet by 60 feet. And I dug down about 12 inches in depth in the sand area for a volleyball court. Another thing to note here is that because this is a floodplain area, sand placement is prohibited by ordinance, so a variance is also required. We are on the meeting next week with the Board of Adjustment and would need that approved as well to keep the sand. And then there's 3 listed conditions here to be considered if approved. First one is that a native plant buffer of 15 feet in width should be required on both sides of the drainage way channel from the ordinary high water level back 50 feet. Native plants here would need to be approved by the department with a plan submitted to us by November 15th and planting to take place by the end of May of next year. Financial guarantee would be required for that native buffer planting. And then, as I stated before, a variance is also required to keep the sand within the mapped floodplain area. I received the same comment from the Sauk River Watershed District that they would also need a permit from them. And I have no other correspondence from anybody else on this application.
All right. Is the applicant here on this one?
Earlier today, they stated that they would attend virtually.
And she is on? Okay. If the applicant is on virtually, if you could state your name and address for the record. Do we know,
are they still there?
From Deb's perspective, if they're still there, or can we check on that?
Mr. Chair, I do see the person shown up as Nancy Strandland. I just am not seeing any video
Nancy's
yet.
on.
It's the same address.
Oh, okay, we have you now. You must have been on mute, so if you could just, it's the, can you hear us now? What was your address again?
Our home address, mailing address is 1066 Sherwood Road, Shoreview, Minnesota, 55126.
All right, thank you. Is there anything you would like to add to the staff report?
Honestly, it's hard to hear you guys.
Yeah, we're having.
So I will have to review the report in writing.
Okay.
And probably send an email in reply.
Okay. So, question for you now, from the Planning Commission perspective. Can you give us a little bit of a background to why you guys took on this project without kind of going through the process ahead of time?
I can't hear that. There's so much echo. What was that again? I'll give the phone to Dave so he can hear you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Hey, this is Jason with the Planning Commission here. Just questioning why, I guess, what the purpose was of the project and why you went about that without getting the permit beforehand.
Basically, it was my better half here that did something without my approval, and I told her not to do that, and she went ahead with it. Basically, we were cleaning up an eyesore. You know, that was a big burn pile from the original landscape. The grass guy kept throwing grass under and burning it, so it was a bunch of burnt stuff and killed all the grass. So he basically cleaned that up, that eyesore, and then we put the volleyball court in there because all the grass was, after all that burning for last 5, 6 years, it just was all gone. And then basically on the beach side, it was because of all that flooding earlier this year, there was a bunch of gouges where, like ankle breakers, so we just had it, smoothed out.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, question for the applicant and her advocate. Can you effectively hear us?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, for the applicant, to ensure that you're getting adequate representation in this, would you be okay if we continued this item until our next meeting, when I believe we'll have better sound and audio for you so you can effectively represent yourself?
Are you asking me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you or Nancy, if you folks would be okay with us continuing this in our November meeting, we should have the sound issues ironed out, and that way you can hear us better and we can hear you better.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mr. Chairman.
When did November, because Nancy's going back to the Philippines on Sunday till the 20th, or the 10th of November, excuse me.
It will be after November 10th. It is, help me out, it should be the 17th, November 17th.
Okay. All right. Now, do we still, I'm sorry, I'm really sick today, but is there still a meeting on the 27th?
There is still a meeting on the 27th, but this will not come up in front of that meeting if you're referring to the county board meeting.
No, that's a board of
Okay,
so this is the board of adjustment meeting.
So the next meeting, well, Dick, is this Dick?
Yeah.
You're going to just send me an email for when the meeting is. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll push them back. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Say, do we have any visuals of what the property looked like before the removal of the sand? Do you have any pictures?
I have some pictures when it was all flooded.
That would be fine to see those pictures, but it appears that on the opposite side of the creek coming in, on the shoreline there had been some vegetation there. But I want to know if we have pictures of it.
From the other side of the road?
Yeah. David.
We didn't touch any of the creek.
Yeah. David, thanks. We'll continue to the next one. We're going to make a motion. The audio is a challenge, and staff will be in touch with you about scheduling the next 2 meetings.
So, Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
Motion to continue this to our November.
Yeah, motion made by Jason, second by Rich. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Mr. Chair, I just have one question then. Can we continue it at the Board of Adjustment next week without this first, or we can do that first? Okay.
Okay.
And then, Mr. Chairman, 2 other questions. One, that's great for this agenda item. We've got 6 more items to go. I mean, we don't have a tech person that can figure this out.
So, Deb, just inform me. So, it is a technical issue with the system tonight, and they have to restart and reboot the whole meeting. So which isn't really feasible to do tonight. So my suggestion would be any other applicants that we have virtually here tonight, that we will, and Deb's going to get in contact with them, and then we'll continue those to the next night. And so I can adjust the agenda accordingly. She's going to try to get them on the phone instead. Okay. All right. Do we know which applicants that is? Or sorry. Okay. All right. We will handle it that way then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, just, Shelley, how much time do we have as far as getting this one done? I mean, would it have to be then completed as far as the timeline?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, we have until December 25th. We administratively extended the 60 days another 60 days, so the end of December is when we have time.
All right. So we move on to agenda item number 3. If the applicants are here in that one, you can already come up. We'll get started and come back to you. But that's to consider a conditional use permit request submitted by Jeff D. and Karen S. Dieters of Osakis, Minnesota, according to sections 4.4, 4.6, 4.8, 4.14, 6.9, and 9.1 of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439. The request is to construct a total confinement barn addition and 2 concrete permanent stockpile pads at a facility greater than 700 animal units or more in an A160 zoning district. The feedlot facility is not proposing any changes to the animal units. The property under consideration is 160 acres located in the northwest quarter of Section 32 in Ashley Township, located at 48201 County Road 182 in Osakis. Real quick roll call of members who were able to visit the site. Jason?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
I also was. Ken?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Rich?
No.
Jeff?
Yes.
And Joe? Okay, thank you. And then we will move on to Becky's staff report.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is a request for a feedlot with 700 animal units or more in an A160 zoning district to construct an 84-foot by 117-foot total confinement barn addition, which is labeled number 13 on the map included in your packet of the feedlot facility footprint, and then 2 concrete permanent stockpile pads labeled number 11 and number 12, and one of those is proposed at 130 by 150, and the other one is 125 by 210. This is located at 48201 County Road 182, Osakis, Minnesota. It's 160 acres parcel, zoned A160 in Ashley Township. Within your packet, it shows the Stearns County Comprehensive Plan, goals and policies that are applicable. Some of the relevant information regarding this site: it's been a registered feedlot since September 15th of 2000, and they've met all the state and county requirements for registration. The original registration was for 254 animal units, and the site's permitted animal units is 999, and those are as follows in the chart in your packet. So just to note that there is no requested change to the final animal unit capacity with this request. We inspected the site on September 8th, and it was determined by staff to be compliant with Stearns County Ordinance 439 and Minnesota Rule Chapter 7020 for water quality discharge standards. And a manure management plan and last year's cropping records have been submitted and have been reviewed by staff, and they meet the Minnesota Rule Chapter 7020 requirements. We received their joint county and state feedlot application on September 8th of 2022. They currently have permitted total and partial confinement barns, open lots, breezeway, feed pad, liquid manure storage area, earthen and concrete, and a manure pump. The proposed barn will be in addition to the existing freestyle barn on site, as it was noted in the conditional use application, to increase space and stall size and to decrease stocking density. The proposed concrete stockpile pads will be for storing manure, which is a pen pack. Currently, there are 16 employees for the facility working 24 hours, 7 days a week per the submitted conditional use permit application. The site has had one previous CUP, which was issued in 2007, which contained 3 conditions. And regarding the first condition, the owner just has not submitted annual report to Stearns County by March 1st of each year, but we would like to note that the owner must maintain a current MMP on site per Minnesota Pollution Control Agency Rules 7020, And those three conditions for the 2007 CUP are that the applicant shall submit an updated manure management plan for 999 animal units. And then at that time, the current was for 958. The applicant shall submit an annual report by March 1st, thereafter showing field soil tests, completed manure analysis results, additional land applications, etc. If the feedlots expand beyond the 990 or greater than 700 cows, which are, I would like to note, mature dairy cows, but that isn't how it was written in the CUP, the applicant shall make application to the MPCA 180 days prior to expansion, which trips the need for an MPDS permit. And then if the farm needs the EAW, which is an environmental assessment worksheet, that would be required as well. The surrounding adjoining properties in Stearns County are all Zone A160. The proposed concrete stockpile pad, which is labeled number 11 on that site map included in your packet, has been reviewed by Environmental Services Department wetland staff and determined that any wetland impacts that may result would be allowed under the Minnesota Wetland Conservation Act. There are 7 residences and 5 existing registered feedlots located within 1 mile of this feedlot, which there are 2 additional maps with your packet, one showing the 1 mile radius of feedlots, and then also a map showing the closest residences within Stearns County to the requested property. The nearest residence in Stearns County is the 4,292 feet shown on that map. And we just don't take the setbacks to the residents in Stearns or in Todd County because they're outside of Stearns County ordinance. Access to the feedlot is County Road 182. The overall proposed construction dimensions will disturb 1.27 acres. So the applicant is required to complete a stormwater pollution prevention plan, but it is not required to be submitted to the Environmental Services Department. At this time, the EAW is not required. An environmental impact statement, state disposal system, or national pollution discharge elimination system (PBOP) permit is also not required for this facility. And that is all I have for you, Mr. Chair and members of the board at this time.
All right. Thank you, Beth and Joe. All right, and I know you're here if you just want to state your name and address for the record.
Shane Dieters. The property address is 48201 County Road 182, Osakis, Minnesota.
All right, thanks, Shane. Anything you want to add to Bethy Joe's report?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. All right, very good. Any questions for the applicants or staff?
Mr. Chair, just a clarification question. You have 16 employees working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Is that, I question that. Asking 16 employees to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week seems a little inhuman. What are your employee hours? I'm assuming the 16 folks aren't working all day, every day, all the time.
Yes, that is a total number of employees.
Okay. So you have 16 working 8 hours.
Yes, we have a rotation for days off and stuff, correct.
Okay.
We have 2 shifts.
Awesome, thank you for the clarification.
Jason, you never farmed. That is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
That is true, thank you.
All right, very good. Thanks. Any other questions for the applicants or staff? All right, hearing none. Is anyone here from the public on this agenda item? Give it one more sec.
We want to read the email into the
We have a
record.
letter, so Bethy Joe, if you want to read that at this time.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I surely can. So I did receive a phone call in regards to this and took that and explained to him that I would need something in writing. So we did receive that on Thursday, October 13th of 2022. And that was from Greg Marthaler, and he said that we live and farm next to the Dieters Dairy. They do an excellent job producing milk while protecting the environment. We are in favor of granting them a permit. Greg, Teresa, and Eric Marthaler. And then I just did respond for the record asking him what his address was, and he replied that what I had listed was the correct address, which is 11780 Stearns Line Road, Osakis, Minnesota 56360. And you all did receive that by email ahead of this meeting, so thank you. That's all I have.
All right, very good. That event, motion.
I'll move to close public hearing.
Motion by Jeff. Second by Rich. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, public hearing closed. Any additional questions or discussion on this item before we move to findings of fact? All right, hearing none. Number one, is the proposal consistent with the Stearns County zoning ordinance number 439?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, I believe it is consistent with land use zoning ordinance number 439, sections 4.4, 4.6, 4.8, 4.14, 6.9, and 9.1.
All right, thank you, Jason. Number two, is there an environmental assessment worksheet, EAW, environmental impact statement, EIS, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, state disposal system, or other permit required for this facility?
Mr. Chairman, the MPDS, which is covered by the SWIP, according to the staff report.
Yep, just the stormwater. Thank you, Jeff. Number three, does the proposal conform to the goals and objectives of the county's comprehensive land use plan? Please specify the appropriate sections.
Mr. Chairman, I'd say it does. Agricultural goals, number one, support agriculture as a desirable land use, long-term facilitate diversification. Number four, strive for and support higher farm profitability and family farm stability. Number five, strengthen and retain areas with highly valued agricultural land or economic viable animal agricultural operations. And the agricultural use policies, number two, emphasize the importance of animal agriculture to the county economy.
Very good. Thanks, Jeff. Number four, will the site configuration, number and type of animals at the site and prevailing wind conditions impact any of the following areas? Traffic, public safety, schools, parks, churches, other municipal residential areas, or any other impacts?
Mr. Chair, minimal impact.
Yeah, minimal impact. If anything, improve. Good, thank you. Number five, has the information been provided regarding the impact of property values in the area as a result of the proposal, and none was documented?
Mr. Chair, none have been provided.
Good, thank you, Rich. Number six, have all recommendations from the Feedlot Review Committee and Feedlot staff been reviewed?
Yes.
Yes, they have. Any other issues pertinent to this matter? Please specify.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to recommend approval to the county board on October 25th of the initial use permit for the Dieter application.
All right, very good. Motion made by Jeff, seconded by Mike to recommend approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so motion to recommend approval will go to the county board. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I have one question, and why do we not have anything for a setback with other counties?
That's a good question.
Well, yeah,
Mr. Chair, to answer that, we can't regulate outside of our county boundaries.
It just seems odd that, there's a house right across the road, and
his house is on the side of the road, it wouldn't apply here either.
No, I agree with that, but wouldn't their well apply? I mean, if the setback has to be from a well, wouldn't it apply regardless of what county it's in?
That'd only be 100 feet probably, or 50 feet.
All right.
Mr. Just related to that question, do they get notified? Do we notify residents outside of the county?
Mr. Chair, Member Wienerman, yes, we do the notification to all of those parties. We contact that county, ask for their names and addresses, and send them notice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Proceeding with four?
I'm going to check with that. Jennifer,
Yes.
okay? You're going to connect
Yes,
by phone?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the applicant for number 4 is going to be calling in.
Okay, very good. So then we will go to that one, and that's number 4. It's to consider a rezoning request submitted by Wild River Limited Partnership in Kimball, according to section 4.1 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439, to rezone approximately 1.15 acres from the residential R5 zoning district to the commercial zoning district. The property is lying east of State Highway 15 in Section 11 of Main Prairie Township. The property address is 12698 State Highway 15 in Kimball, Minnesota. Real quick, roll call of members who visited the site. Jason?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
I also was. Mike?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
They went out of order. And Joe? All right, very good. Jennifer, you want to take us quickly through the staff report?
Yes. This property is an existing parcel, kind of tucked right in between city property. It has, formerly was a home, and in 2017, Willow Creek Concrete is the company that operates here, but it's the ownership is Wild River Limited Partnership. 2017, they purchased the property, and it houses the company's fulfillment offices. So they've been using it as an office space for the last 5 years. I was informed that it kind of came to their attention when their insurance company was doing annual review that they aren't zoned properly for how they're using it. So that prompted them to go through this process. So they don't intend on constructing anything or doing anything new on the property. Since it has been converted from a home to office space, we do need to make sure that the accessibility specialist for the county reviews it to make sure it meets accessibility code. Other than that, you won't visibly see any changes out there. As I mentioned, it's surrounded by city property. I did contact the city of Kimball to just make sure we knew of any comments they had, and they did not have any. The rest of the business is in the city limits. So I think the rest of it is pretty straightforward. Willow Creek does run through this property on the north side of the home. It's a trout stream, so there are restrictions there if they ever wanted to do any new construction or expansion. Other than that, Main Prairie Township recommended approval, and that's all that I have.
All right, very good, Jennifer.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, are you the applicant?
That is correct. Yes, I'm having trouble connecting via the phone. I can hear well enough, I think, through this format to continue.
Oh, good, Greg. Yeah, perfect. So if you're okay with that, assuming, I'm pretty sure since Greg sort of popped up on the computer, if you can just state your address for the record.
Yes, Greg Kaiser, Willow River Limited Partnership, 12698 Highway 15, Kimball, Minnesota.
All right, very good. Thanks, Greg. Anything that you would add to Jennifer's report?
No, it seems fairly straightforward. Nothing to add at this time.
Very good. Hey, thanks, Greg. Any questions by commission members for the applicant or staff on this one?
Mr. Chair, question for the staff. As you've indicated, this property is mostly surrounded by 6 Kimball. Does the city, when you talk, have any plans to annex this or any future development in the area?
Sure, yeah. When I talked to the city, I spoke with the clerk, and she did not say anything about plans to annex it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know of anything current or in recent history back around, I would say, 2007 or 8. There was some initial talk with our group about annexing that property, and it was not pursued at that time.
All right. Thanks, Greg.
Yep.
Good. Any other questions? Joe, go ahead.
Greg, Commissioner Persky here. Greg, I'm just concerned about the home and then its status and then, of course, that trout stream there. So it's my understanding you just want to continue to use it as you are, but we're going to change rezoning to make this commercial. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so does this have its own septic system?
It does.
Okay, so as far as changing that at all, if you were to change any of the building to make it larger, and that it would have to go through planning, and of course, we'd be looking at the septic and the impact it would have, on the trout stream, correct?
Certainly, that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm fine with that.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Anyone here from the public hearing on this particular agenda item?
Move to close the public hearing.
Motion made by Jeff, seconded by Rich to close public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Public hearing closed. Any other discussion on this item? We can move into findings of fact. All right, number one, is the proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? Why or why not?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chairman, in location with the city and also the previous use.
Very good, thank you, Jeff. Number two, does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? List the applicable sections.
Mr. Chair, it does conform with the future land use map in the concentrated residential area. When we look at this and our pillars, our objectives, to increase the county's regional prosperity by being globally competitive, also to enhance the ability of local retail business to sustain small cities and rural town sites.
All right. Very good, Sean. Thanks.
I would also add, Mr. Chairman, under the transportation corridor, that it does conform with commercial uses, should be oriented principally around key intersections and commercial routes, certainly which 15 is.
And I don't have the map in front of me, but I also believe this falls within part of the transitional areas of that plan. So very good. Number three, is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood? Why or why not?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chairman. It's been used as such for quite some time.
And next to commercial. I agree. Number four, how is the applicant demonstrated that the standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied?
By previous use.
It's a good way to do it. Agreed. And are there any other issues pertinent to this matter?
Mr. Chair, maybe. So under the parties notified, this is not the Sauk River Watershed District. This is the Clearwater River Watershed District. Were they notified? Because I believe there's a rain garden just north of this parcel on the city land.
Let me check that real quick.
While she's checking, Mr. Chairman, the Main Prairie Township recommended approval. If we're going through the rest of it, while we're waiting for that, Supervisor Lowen's son, I think, is the executive director of the Watershed District, so I would think they probably talked about it, even if it's not official.
He no longer is. Cole's now accounting.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Member Wienerman, we did send it to the Clearwater River Watershed District. I pulled up the letter, so that was just a typo in the staff report.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
All right, thank you.
And no response?
No response.
Okay.
Good catch, Jason. Wow. 2 points for that one. All right. With that, unless there's anything else, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to recommend approval to the county board for October 25th.
All right. Motion by Jeff, second by Rich. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. Greg, so motion to recommend approval will go to the county board the upcoming meeting.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Ladies. Yep.
All right. So then number 5, all right, it's not J. We have Someone else here, and that is to consider a conditional use permit request submitted by Rich Spring Golf Club of Cold Spring, Minnesota, according to section 4.8, 6.23, and 10.2.4A of Stearns County zoning ordinance number 439, to expand an existing commercial use in shoreline by adding on to an accessory structure and building a new accessory structure. Property under consideration is the northwest quarter lying along Fairway Circle in section 21 of Wakefield Township. Property address 17070 Fairway Circle, Cold Spring. Real quick roll call of the members who visited the site. Jason?
Yes.
Sean? Yes. I also did many times. We have Ken?
Yes.
Mike? Rich?
Yes.
And Jeff?
Yes.
Very good. All right. We'll come to applicant introductions in a second, and we'll go to staff report now. Jen, if you're good to go.
Yep. All right, so this request is to do a couple of smaller projects out there. So there's the maintenance shed on the property that was built in '95, and they're asking to add an addition on to the west side or the back side of that. And then the other project would be the 10 by 12 building for 2 water pumps, and that replaces the previous pump house that was there. And if you visited the property, you probably saw that that's already been constructed and placed on the property. So that is what they're doing, requesting to do at this time. The golf course has been in existence since before there was shoreline zoning, so the use in itself is pre-existing, predates the zoning ordinance. There are wetlands near the area of the pump house, but the actual location is okay. With the pump house being in floodplain, they do need to make sure they elevate that high enough, and then the fill around the pump house needs to be elevated high enough, so I've been discussing that with the golf course folks, and so they'll have to get a surveyor out there to make sure the elevation is correct. The one thing, when I look through the standards for a golf course, the one thing we still are seeking from the applicants is their plan for storage and use of pesticides and fertilizers on the property. So I spoke with Jim Johnson, and he explained to me where the stuff is stored. It's actually in a different building, not either of these buildings that we're discussing. And they have a plan, and they have the appropriate license that they need from the Department of Ag for the chemicals and such. So I just asked them to send me something in writing so we have that for our file. So I expect to get that from him in the next few days here. Other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward. If you were to recommend approval, we would ask for 2 conditions. 1, compliance with floodplain standards is required for the pump house. And 2, compliance with the Wetland Conservation Act is required for the pump house location.
All right. Thank you. So now, if you don't mind stating name and address. Your physical address.
21959 Frostmore Road.
All right, very good. Anything you want to add to Jennifer's report? Hey, quick question, where that pad is located at right now? This spring, how close did the water come to that spot?
That's actually why we picked that spot. We had a different spot identified. Once we saw how much rain we got on Memorial Weekend, we looked at it, said that's not going to work. But I don't remember. That was actually old T-box many years ago, and the water did not get to that height, and that's why we pulled that.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you. I know that area flooded pretty good, so otherwise. Okay, good. Any other questions by? Go ahead, Joe.
Troy, the old pump house, is that going to be removed? Oh, okay. And at the pump house, there's not a well there. You're using the existing water that's coming out there. That I see in the lagoons or in the bay there. Is that what you're using?
Yeah, and the only difference is we'll use a floating.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay. So I'm just curious because then you wouldn't be abandoning. You're drawing the water from the existing area, not from a well. Yeah. Okay.
Very good. Any other questions?
I do have comments from Township. I was going to mention that.
You can comment there. Do you want to mention those now, or?
I sure can. I have short letter from the watershed district, and then I did get an email from the township. Do you want me to mention those now?
Yeah, we can do those now.
Okay. So the watershed district sent an email stating if the project moves forward, it will likely need a permit from the Sauk River Watershed District. So they're advised to contact the watershed district to discuss that process. And then the correspondence I got from the township says regarding and the township wasn't able to be here tonight due to conflict. So they sent this regarding the Rich Spring Golf Club, the request to expand the existing commercial accessory structure and building a new accessory structure. Wakefield Township would respectfully request that they be directed to the township to request a license/encroachment agreement from the township in the event any infrastructure is placed under or inside the township road right-of-way before they would proceed with such activity, along with as-built for future protection of said infrastructure, as well as the encroached upon township road. This is assuming all township road setbacks are met. If not, please have the golf course contact my office to begin a variance process. So I did share that with Jay, and I don't believe these projects are going to involve any infrastructure in the road right away.
Correct. And one question, regarding the Sauk River, because it's only 120 square feet and less than 150, we were told that we would not need a permit for them, but we would definitely go back to them if we need a permit.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Oh, sure. Well, in regards to the structures, so the county enforces the zoning standards, and then the township enforces building code. So with building code, they don't. My understanding is you don't need a permit for that small of a structure. They will need a building permit for the addition to the maintenance building. So that's a building code thing. That's through the township. But on the zoning end, we do require a permit for both structures.
Okay. And the Sauk River Watershed District says that they need a permit as well yet?
They may need a permit, is what the watershed district said. So I advised Jay to give them a call and explain the scope of their project, and then find out if the scope of the project requires a permit. Because the watershed district triggers are based on the amount of disturbance. So.
Okay. So to your point, it may not apply, and you can work that out with them. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, just again, as we've dealt with how many times, the irony of this is they require the permit, they'll never come to see it, they don't do anything, just send the check. So I don't know why you would want to do that in this case, but if you have to do it, that's a sad reality.
All right, any other questions for staff or the applicant? All right, we'll go to public hearing. Is anyone here from the public on this agenda item? All right, seeing nobody. Motion made by Jeff, second. I'm sorry, Sean. I'm going to give that one to you. Thank you. Motion made by Jeff, second by Sean to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Public hearing closed. All right, any additional discussion before we move to findings of fact? All right. Number one, is the proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? Why or why not?
It is, Mr. Chairman, land use zoning ordinance 439, sections 4.8, 6.23, and 10.2.4A.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Number two, does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county?
Mr. Chair, Jason Winterman, I believe that it does. So under the rural business policy goals, number one, rural businesses should not alter the rural character of the neighborhood. And also at number three, encouraging rural businesses seeking to expand versus what is just a change to be in town-site mixed-use areas and transitional areas.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Jason. Number three, is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood? Why or why not?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chairman, because it's been there forever.
Been there, yep, it's existing. Thank you. Number four, how has the applicant demonstrated that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied? I think they've been working with township and watershed district and county to make sure that stuff's done right. They're going to measure and make sure that with the condition, they hit the floodplain requirement. So, number five, any other issues pertinent to the matter?
Just the township, that they contact the township.
Very good. All right, unless there's any other discussion, a motion in order.
I'll move, Mr. Chairman, to recommend approval of conditional use permit to the county board for their October 25th meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion by Jeff.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, seconds.
All right, thanks, Jason. Second by Jason. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, so motion to recommend approval will go to the county board on the October 25th meeting. Thanks. All right. Well, or 6. All right, and that does take us to agenda item number 6, not 4. And I believe this applicant was going to be on the phone as well, Jen, or are we okay, or are they online?
This one is online.
Hello, yes.
Okay, are you able to hear us okay?
Yep, sounds great.
All right, so we're going to do this in reverse order. I'm going to jump down to number 4, which is applicant introductions. Is this Greg? Or sorry, Jared. This is Lucas. All right, Lucas, if you wouldn't mind, just state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, hi, Lucas Shostrom. I'm a long ways away from Stearns County right now, so I'm trying to think. 31535, 463rd Avenue, Bruton, Minnesota, 56316.
All right, thanks, Lucas. All right, we'll come back to you here in a little bit. This is agenda item number 6, and that's to consider a request for a conditional use permit submitted by North Fork Distillery, LLC of Bruton, Minnesota, on behalf of Gerard and Linda Jennison. Of Bruton, according to section 4.8, 6.7, and 9.2.5b of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance 439 to expand an existing agriculturally oriented business. The expansion will add on to the creamery and add a farm, winery / distillery. The property under consideration is in basically North Fork Township with the address of 31535 463rd Avenue. Bruton, Minnesota. Real quick roll call of members who visited the site. Jason.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
I was not able to make it to this site. We got Mike.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Rich.
Not this time, but I visited how many other times before.
All right, very good. Jeff.
Yes.
I didn't visit recent, but I've been there a couple
Okay, been there before. All right, very good. And then with that, we'll go to the staff report.
All right, very good. So as you mentioned, Chairman, this is a request to expand the existing commercial operation that's on this property, or I should say ag-oriented business. So currently they operate Redhead Creamery, as you are aware, and that was permitted in 2013, 9 years ago. So at this point, they're asking to add a farm winery / distillery. The zoning is agricultural 40. So in the staff report, we outlined that they're going to have a large addition on the south side of the creamery, and then there would be a couple other smaller, I shouldn't say a couple, there would be another smaller building or storage container added out there, which you can see on the map is letters A and B. And so Lucas explained to me that it's going to be one or the other. They're not both going to be there, but one or the other would be their fermentation room. And the other thing that isn't on this drawing, but he indicated in an email, which was in your packet, they do also plan to add a deck onto the east side of the existing creamery and the expansion. So that'll go towards that wetland that's there. And then when they remove the existing patio to add their handicap parking there, then they'll create new patio to the south of that. So that's the gist of the physical changes there. They discuss in the application what their hours are. So they have manufacturing hours, and they do that 7 days a week, 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then they have retail, tasting room / tours, that kind of part of their business. And currently that is Thursday through Sunday from 12 to 8. We did discuss special events, and some of you may be familiar with the big event they have now is Curd Fest, which happens every year in June, which draws a good number of people out there. But they are requesting that the permit allow up to 12 special events, and the hours for their special events, they are asking for 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And let's see. The amount of impervious surface that they'll be adding, plus what they added since 2013, I did calculate that out. It does not trip an acre, so they don't need to do stormwater management at this time. So looking at performance standards for an ag-oriented business, the township did grant approval to use 463rd Street for the business, and that's in your packet. They are aware of the need to meet the accessibility code, and they've been in contact with our building official that we work with on that. We did receive a letter from the Minnesota Department of Labor and Industry. So these public gathering spaces, if they're going to host 100 people or more, then the state works with them on some of the reviews. But this is going to fall below that. So therefore, they don't need state review of the structural pieces of it as a place of public accommodation. So then we'll be reviewing that stuff locally. And then if you have any questions on their state and federal permits and licenses they need for the winery and the distillery, Lucas can certainly educate us on that, but there's several different things that they need, and they're aware of all of that. They don't indicate any outdoor storage. They didn't intend to have any, but if they do end up needing outdoor storage, they must comply with the performance standards, which would mean having it in the rear of a structure or having it screened. As far as parking goes, they had a parking area identified, so as you're coming in, going north up the driveway, the parking would be off to the right in that field, and if needed, there's the little field off to the left that's not the main farm field, but plenty of room there for parking, and that's shown on one of the plans. What else here? So conditions, if the commission were to recommend approval, we do have a number of conditions that would go along with this use. And, you know, the other one that we have in the county would be milk and honey. So we're trying to be consistent with our other, ag tourism type businesses. So they have to meet the accessibility portion of the state building code. They're going to need 2 inspections for that, which they're aware of. They need to comply with the Wetland Conservation Act, so before we issue our permit, they need to stake out the furthest extent of any disturbance they're going to do, so our wetland staff can go out and take a look. We asked the Planning Commission to discuss if days and hours of operation should be set. So there's the manufacturing piece of it, and then there's the retail piece of it. As to the retail, like I said, currently they do Thursday through Sunday. We would suggest not limiting the days if they all of a sudden want to start being open on Wednesdays for tours. I guess our opinion is that isn't out of line. So if you're going to set anything, maybe set hours would be our thought. And then number 4, discuss whether a limit should be set for special events. Number 5, a special event that has 1,000 people or more in attendance shall obtain a large gathering permit. And that's regulated by our large gathering ordinance. Number 6, a minimum of 2 portable toilets per 150 people shall be available during special events. And 1 of them shall be handicap accessible. 7, they shall maintain the appropriate licenses from the county and or the Department of Ag. And which of us it comes from is dependent on the how much of the food is being served. So it goes by the receipts that they have there. Currently, it's licensed through the Department of Ag. Any new sign shall meet the sign standards of the ordinance. Sewage treatment system permit shall be obtained, along with their construction permit for the addition. Provide notice to all neighboring property owners that are within a quarter mile of when they're going to host outdoor music, and that needs to be sent to the neighbors at least 14 days before the event. When outdoor music is occurring on the property, the state noise standards shall be met at the property line. 12, lighting shall be directed to stay on the property. 13, parking areas shall be installed or made available per the approved plans. 14, a severe weather plan shall be submitted to the department for outdoor events. And I haven't received any public comment on this one. That's all I have.
All right. Very good. Thanks, Jennifer. So, Lucas, is there anything you'd like to add to Jennifer's report?
Yes, Mr. Chair. 2 things. One, I want to thank the county staff. We had a few different permit options, and the world of alcohol was far more foreign to us than the world of cheese was 8 years ago, and I just appreciate the county staff for sticking with us as we had to make changes as we went forward. But I think we're in the right spot now, so thank you to them. Second, on numbers 3 and 4, days and hours and special events, we'd request that those aren't limited or set. We understand for consistency's sake you may need to, but one of the things we're able to do is educate the public through tours when buses come from Fargo to Minneapolis or vice versa, or anywhere in the area. And those can come any time of the week, and those can also come and alter our staffing schedule. And so for those 2 reasons, we're able to educate people 7 days a week if we're not restricted. And sometimes when we're able to do tours and education, we're able to manufacture on different days. So would really appreciate a lack of limit there, but
all right. Lucas, are you still there?
What was that?
Oh, you know what? We lost you audio-wise right after you mentioned preferring not to have the days limited. Were you finishing there, or did you get cut off?
I mentioned buses. Did you hear that part?
Okay. Yes. Yep.
Okay. No.
Very good. Thanks, Lucas. Any questions for the applicant or staff? All right. Hearing none. Do we have anyone here from the public on this agenda item? All right. Not seeing a rush, Jennifer. And you said we did not receive any correspondence, correct? Correct. So, motion in order to go to public hearing.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, so moved.
Thanks, Jason. Motion by Jason.
I'll second that.
Second by Sean. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Public hearing closed. All right. Any further discussion before we move to findings of fact?
Lucas, hi, Joe Persky here, Lucas. I like the plan. It looks like a good venture. However, we've seen this happen before, and we've run into some great difficulties of operation, and maybe even been quite a bit misled into what your intentions are and what actually is going to happen. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. First of all, did the township get notified on this?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, I went to their meeting about a year ago now, whatever the date of the first letter was signed.
Okay, Lucas, did you talk about special events at that time as far as having those special events?
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, they want us to have more. They get liquor income, so they told me we should have more events with more beer.
That's great, because in the conditions before they didn't address their special events with the township. They just were talking about something else. So I'm glad that the township embraced that. Just a question then too is between the special events and your regular hours of operation, with the tours ending from 12 to 8 p.m. Are you going to? Is there going to be any alterations of those activities other than the time? So in other words, are you going to provide live music and parties and things during the regular hours of operations, 12 to 8, or is that just going to be for sampling and tours?
I don't know if I understand the question.
So my question is, Lucas, my question is, what constitutes a special event?
Yes, Commissioner Persky, I think me and the staff were both trying to figure that out. I guess I would say, in our case, we are a long ways from neighbors, have had no complaints in the time that we've been up. We've had loud music, we've had quiet music, and more importantly, we've had many tractors running where we are. We're kind of in the middle of a 160-acre parcel, and so not trying to make an excuse, I'm just saying we're not intending to do any large concerts, any humongous music gatherings when we have our single special event of the year that I think would qualify. Neighbors are invited and come. But I do think, compared to the other places that you're talking about, I think we're in I don't want to say more beneficial situation, but the likelihood of lights or sound reaching our property lines are, mitigated by just where we do it. So I don't, if you want a direct answer, I can try to give you that. I just don't foresee, no matter what we would do, a problem. We intend to continue to do our events on the farm place, or right nearby, which is right in the middle of that 160, which I think really eliminates the type of problems you're talking about, Commissioner Persky.
And then I'm going to go back to Jennifer asking about capacity, numbers of people, and then parking with that.
Joe,
just
in all
well
fairness, can you save those for the county board meeting?
Well, we could, but then we could pass it. I mean, we could pass it as is. Otherwise, we'll have to pull it for discussion, and then he might not be able to be in attendance and answer those questions.
Okay, go ahead real quick on the parking.
What was the question?
Are we limited on the parking and the number of parking?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jennifer. For the parking, for special events, we use alfalfa fields. We always keep an alfalfa field nearby. On attendance, I would take the fire marshal's number or the Department of Labor and Industries number and divide it by 2. We just really don't feel comfortable for the guest's sake having. So our current building is rated for 49, and we try to keep 25 people or fewer in there. The new building will be rated for 99, and again, we'll be trying to keep about 50 people in there. I just don't think, we're not looking for a club-type atmosphere where we're packing people in, so I think we'll be at about 50% always of what we're rated for.
And Lucas, I have no problem with that at all, those indoor ones. I'm talking about having 300 to 400 people out there on the farm and making sure that that's adequate, or there's going to be issues with that number of people outside of, let's say, the special events.
No, not for outdoor capacity. We have, again, 160 acres, and obviously we don't use the whole 160, but lots of ways to expand.
Chair, Richard Blankish here.
Yep, go ahead, Rich.
I got a question in regards to the portable toilets available for 1,000 people. Just looking at what a couple portable toilets per 150. So we're looking at about 14 for 1,000 people. Is my math right? My concern with that is that might be way too few. Recently had a family member go to a Oktoberfest, and the toilets were maxed out by noon on Saturday.
Do you know how many people were there, Rich?
That I don't know. But I'm just thinking, if you're going to have 1,000 people, 14 toilets, and will they survive?
At the Oktoberfest, they were serving a lot of beer.
Well, what is this fest? You know, I'm just questioning, is there some way, I mean, where does that number come from? 2 per 150.
Yeah, good question. I'm pretty sure that comes right from the large gathering ordinance requirement, but I'm going to look that up real quick.
Yeah. And then the other thing that would play into this from Lucas's standpoint would be, who is the contractor providing those, and how often are they going to maintain them?
Well, that, in all fairness, should be open for bid, so that might change.
Correct. I'm just thinking about individuals having access.
I do think, as you're talking about number 6, the 2 toilets per 150, they shall be maintained in the sanitary condition. So they have to be functional, operational, complete.
Yeah,
that doesn't always happen.
Would that? No, I think that's a good point. I mean, I think we could add that. And to your point, you would hope that would be a part of obviously running a business, making a good experience for people. But I'm fine if we want to state that in the conditions.
Mr. Chair, if they're going to have a large gathering, they have to go through the large gathering permit process.
Okay.
So that's a separate process than the one you're dealing with. So I would suggest staying with what's in the scope of the CUP. Large gathering is separate. They have to have a public hearing at the county board level, and there's a review process and significant amount of review with multiple entities, sheriff's office, emergency management, etc.
So the large event permitting process, large gathering permitting process has more rigid standards to address a lot of the concerns that are being brought up here.
That's correct, and that goes in front of the county board.
Very good. Cool. Thanks, Shelley. That's okay for commission members? All right. Very good. Any other questions or discussion before we go to findings of fact?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to clarify with Lucas about the hours. We didn't really get an answer on that.
Thank you.
I mean, we're looking at the manufacturing hours are different, right? They're 4 to 8, 4 a.m., 10 p.m., 7 days a week. But you've got your retail listed as Thursday to Sunday, 12 to 8. But you're talking about these special events being 10 to 10, and you're wanting to add more dates. So you're looking to open for business 7 days a week from 12 to 8 p.m. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair and committee, we milk cows 7 days a week currently on this site. We farm currently 7 days a week on this site. We make cheese currently, usually 3 or 4 days a week on the site, but those days depend kind of on production of the two things I mentioned earlier. And the distillery is in direct effect to those things. So, very likely, for my sanity and my wife's and my parents-in-law, we won't be running 7 days a week ever. But what we didn't want to limit is it might be a certain 3 days one week and 4 separate days the next week. We're just following the production cycle. If things go great and crazy and we are running 7 days a week, it is possible that we could be using the facility 7 days a week, but we are relying on the production cycle of the crops and then the cow to do what we do. So again, we've got loud tractors running 7 days a week already. And then we make the cheese off of that, and we've made cheese all 7 days a week, but never have we made it 7 consecutive days a week, if that makes sense. As far as the retail and tasting room, there was a time in the past that we were running Tuesday through Sunday, and thanks to COVID, we've kind of just realigned our business, and we are currently only running Friday and Saturday. So again, this is the most we thought we would do is Thursday through Sunday, 12 to 8. Special events, again, we aren't planning any 12-hour special events. We could see some extension events that run 10 to 2. So other, unforeseen event in the future that runs from 4 to 10. Very unlikely to have a 12-hour event, but the way the permit, lists it, it's simplicity. So again, no, we don't plan to run 7 days a week. We don't plan to be open Thursday through Sunday at this point. But the less we limit that, the more options we as business owners have going forward.
Anything else, Sean? All right.
Mr. Chair, I think what he's asking for, they want flexibility because they never know what day of the week people want to send the bus down. So if they want to come on a Monday, they don't want to say, well, you can't come till Thursday. That's what I take.
Yeah, so Lucas, right now the application indicates that your hours of operation should be Thursday through Sunday on the retail, tasting room, and tours area. So your application says Thursday through Sunday. Do you want that to be 7 days a week, 12 p.m. to 8?
Ideally, we'd love all three to be 24/7. I don't know what the future holds. Sometimes we get breakfast groups, calling. I probably should have limited as much as I did, but I knew I would get these exact questions. So, not limiting 3 and 4 is great. We live right on the property, and so 24-hour parties don't work very well for us. But we try to be great neighbors, and I think by the lack of comments, we have been best that we can. And yes, we're just, as I think I'm not sure who said it, but as somebody just stated, we're just looking for flexibility.
Go ahead, Jason.
Mr. Chair, question for staff, and I think the applicant will be supportive. If we were to do 5 days a week and not specify those 5 days, would that be fine?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Wienerman, yes, you could say that they're allowed to operate 5 days a week. They can pick the 5 days, but over the course of, what would you say, Monday through Sunday, 5 days they can do.
Yeah. 5 days, not to exceed 5 days per week. And does anyone have an issue saying 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.? I haven't heard of any.
Again, are these actually going to include larger gatherings?
Oh, not larger gatherings over 1,000, no.
It's not part of their...
May I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Lucas.
Were you talking for manufacturing or retail or
We're talking retail.
Okay, that worries me in the case that buses and events seem to come in like this time of year right now. And so I can see us being open 7 days in a row, but then on average, we're probably open 3 days year round. So I just wanted to raise that with you in the case of complaints and lawsuits. That's really all I'm worried about. I'm not really worried about us with complaints, but
Lucas, if I may interrupt, we're looking at being flexible for you in that we're not forcing you to be open. This gives you the ability to be open. I mean, you can control the days that you want to be open. So if we say 7 days a week, the permit would allow that, but you can control the hours that you are open.
I think he's referring to me stating not to exceed 5, and which was expanding beyond the Thursday through Sunday. Jason mentioned 5. I personally don't care, so whatever anyone wants to recommend here, we can write it in. Whatever we write in the CUP is what he'll have to abide by.
Mr. Chair, I don't feel the need for the 5-day limitation. Give them the flexibility, is what I say. But my concern is that, does that also give them the flexibility to just go 10 to 10 every day? Who's monitoring those 12 special events a year? How do we control those? Have to apply for a permit each time?
For major events, that's what I just heard.
If it's over the if it's over 1,000, I think just standard procedure, guys. I think where this is located is totally different than the other sensitivity that we're all the white elephant in the room. So this, I think, should be wide open, and it's going to be complaint driven. It's a CUP. If it becomes a problem, I have all confidence the family is going to take care of that. But if it doesn't, it's a CUP. So the permit could be revoked. Correct?
Yes, that's correct. If they were violating any conditions, it could be revoked.
Where this is located, I don't think we have to worry about the hours or the days, and it's going to place itself, I think.
Or that's going to be run over with people every day.
Mr. Chair, based on the discussion, modify the condition 3B, which is the retail tasting room hours, to 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and then leave number 4 as is.
Okay. And that is?
The special events.
Yep, the special events. Okay. So that would stay the 12 from 10 to 10. All right. Everyone good with that modification?
Mr. Chair, so my understanding, we are going to have still 12 special events? Mm-hmm. Okay. And Lucas, by all means, if things are successful with 12, and I have no trouble moving it up to as many as you think is possible.
Yeah, well, thank you to Mr. Chair, thank you to you and the committee. I mean, the flexibility proposed here, as I discussed with Ms. Buckentine, I mean, we don't anticipate getting 12 special events as you define them. We just don't know what the future holds, as 2020 and 21 showed us in very different ways. We just don't want to limit ourselves on the upside of potential for people and events wanting to come. So thank you very much.
Well, let's go through findings of facts then with that change made. Thank you, Jason, for going down that path. Number one, is the proposal consistent with its own ordinance? Why or why not?
Mr. Chair, Jason Chairman, I believe it is, with land use zoning ordinance, again, number 439, sections 4.8, 6.7, and 9.2.5B.
Very good. Thank you, Jason. Two, does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? I believe that does under the business goals. Number three, acknowledge tourism's economic value and the prospective contribution of this industry to both the diversity of the county economic base and the potential for growth. There's also rural business policies that applies to agritourism policies. I could state more, but it applies to multiple. Number three, is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood? Why or why not?
It is, Mr. Chairman, because of the location and the distance separating.
Yeah, pretty isolated on 160 acres. Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Number four, how has the applicant demonstrated that the standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied?
Mr. Chair, I would say they've been open with their other business this many years, and there hasn't been, as far as we know, any complaints about that.
And Mr. Chair, with the future, we have the 14 conditions as modified.
Thank you, Ken and Jason. Then finally, any other issues pertinent to this matter?
Mr. Chair, are you still with us, Lucas? Okay, I guess
yes, sir, Mr. Persky.
I'm just curious about parking. I guess I would like to just have a comment. There'll be no parking on the township road, and the parking will not be what I want, detrimental to the environment.
Yeah, good.
Yes, that is our full intention, and it's a mile from the county roads. That'd be bad business for our customers. So it'd be back to the comment of people running our doors down and have different problems to satisfy at that time.
Okay. Sometimes when you have people drinking, they make bad decisions, though. So you're good with that?
Yeah, no, I mean, what we want people to do is pay more to drink and therefore drink less. And I'm being earnest about that. I'm not being cute. We want them to understand where their drinks can come from. So no offense to any bars, but we don't want this to be a bar. We want this truly to be an experience.
All right, thank you. Good. Unless there's anything else, a motion would be in order. All right, thanks, Mike. With the 12 conditions. And then the modification to the operating hours for 7 days a week.
And there's 14.
There's 14. There's 14. Thank you. 14 conditions. All right, good. Thanks, Mike. In a second. Rich seconds. All right. So all those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. So Lucas recommend motion to recommend approval to the county board will be made at the October 25th meeting. Thanks for your time.
Thank you all. Thank you, staff.
Mr. Chairman, just curious, has nothing to do with this. Well, it kind of does. But I very well remember when Rich Spring wanted to do some additions, we made him tear out grass and put in the parking lot, all that kind of stuff. And I don't think we should, but we did in that instance. What was the difference? Do you remember? I just remember I thought it was odd that we, for the overflow parking like this would be, and we should just allow parking in the field or whatever. But in that case, we made them tear out grass and put a parking lot in. And I thought it was odd at the time, and when I'm hearing this, and I don't want to delay this, but I'm just curious or maybe if you don't know, you can get back to us.
Yeah, we can check on that.
Yeah. Because, again, I don't think that should be a requirement.
I think it was Shady's, and it's because I don't think they would have had parking on the grass available unless it was on Rich Springs, which might have been the difference.
Okay.
Making sure they had designated parking spaces to accommodate the amount of people outside of using someone else's property.
Okay. And that could be but just check on that because I'm curious.
They needed an easement, yeah, and then the other piece of it is the intensity of the use. So at Shady's, there's the parking lot's very, very frequently in the busy season. This will not be, but yeah, we'll check.
And again, I don't think, I'm not saying that in reference that this should have been required. I just thought it was odd that we required it of them. So, okay.
They've been doing, Kraft was doing that. Kraft was doing that 30 years ago.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's free alcohol. We just have to distill it. Sugars and proteins are there. All right. Well, cool. Hey, with that, we'll go to agenda item number 7. That's to consider an interim use permit request submitted by Matt and Haga. Thank you. Thank you. I should do the pronunciations ahead of time. So, all right. Matt and Haga, Legat, and Mary Justin Revocable Trust of Rice Leggett, sorry. According to section 4.18, 6.62, and 9.46B of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439, request is to operate a vacation home rental. Properties in the northeast quarter, southeast quarter, northwest quarter, lying east of 65th Avenue, section 29 of Brockway Township. Property address is 39712 65th Avenue in Rice. All right, and so real quick roll call of members who visited the site. Jason?
No.
Sean? Yes. I did. Ken?
Yes.
Mike? Yes. Rich?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
And Joe? Okay. All right, and we'll come back to you guys and we'll do the formal introductions here in a second. We'll go staff report. Quickly, Jennifer, if that's you're ready.
I'll just rehash that real quick. So the request is to operate a vacation rental on this 20-acre parcel that is not in Shoreline, but it's in Brockway Township. And they're asking the permit be valid for 5 years. In their supplement with their application, they give a little more background on their reasoning for wanting to do this here and what their vision is for it. This home was constructed in '99, had a sunroom addition in 2015. And so they are compliant with zoning currently. Let's see. They did have a water test done. They had a septic inspection completed, and that is all in compliance. Based on the size of the septic system, the vacation rental would be limited to 9 persons. There is adequate space for off-street parking. As you can see, that was on the drawing, and if you were out there, you notice that as well. Other than that, I would be open to questions if you had any more questions. Our lodging staff did go out there and visited the property, so that summary is in your packets as well. And there's a few things they have to comply with before their license could be issued, if their interim use permit is approved. So the proposed conditions would be to set an expiration date. Again, they are asking for 5 years. The most recent permits that have been granted have been for 3 years. The maximum occupancy would be 9 persons. The applicant shall obtain a lodging license from the department before renting out the home. A flow measurement device is required for the septic system before issuing the lodging license, and then they would have to keep flow measurement readings and monitor the system, record those monthly, and then records made available to the department upon request. Number 5, the licensee shall keep a report detailing use of the home by recording at a minimum the name, address, phone number, and vehicle license number of all guests using the property, and then provide that to us upon request. And then lastly, all local zoning requirements must be complied with prior to licensure. So that's all I have for the staff report, and I did not get any public comments on this one.
All right.
So, Mr. Chair, I have a question then right away. We've been working on...
Real quick, 30, we're going to introduce the applicants, and then we'll come back to your question because it could be from them, if you're okay with that.
Yeah, Jennifer was alluding to it, but we can go to them.
Sorry. You know what? I trust your memories. Stick with it. Sorry. We'll quickly introduce if you can state your name and address for the record.
I'm Mary Justin, and my physical address is 501 9th Avenue Northwest, St. Stephen.
Okay.
Oh, did you hear me? Can you repeat that?
Yeah.
501 9th Avenue Northwest, St. Stephen. Okay. So we live about 3 miles away from the property we're talking about.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Mary. And then?
This is my husband, Roger.
Roger.
I'm Roger. I'm her husband and her lawyer.
All right. And same address?
Same address.
All right, thank you. All right, so Ken, sorry.
Okay, we've been discussing vacation home rentals. Now, this is on a T20. T20s, and we've got one, we had one by Stock Center on an A40 or A80. Do they have the same rules and setup and everything as the vacation home rentals on the R1s? Because we're dealing with quite a bit different circumstances.
Sure, yeah, good question. The rules are the same. So it's the same ordinance that applies, the same lodging license requirements, the same zoning requirements. The condition I took off that we normally have on is the requirement for the buoy at the end of the ring buoy. So that didn't seem applicable here. Otherwise, yeah. It's the same.
All right, very good.
Well, there's sometimes you need to have fences or whatever. Here you're out in the 20 acres in the middle of a whole lot of other land. So,
real quick question for staff, just for clarification. My understanding is that there's going to be some changes to ordinances made around vacation home rentals. And my understanding is basically with the changes happening at the county, this particular application would fall within anything that's changing at this point. Is that accurate?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, so the county board did adopt new ordinance standards for vacation rentals, and those will be effective January 1st of 2023. This application was submitted before the changes are effective, so they fall under the current ordinance, and yeah, they fall under the current ordinance, not the new stuff. The only thing in the new stuff that really would impact this property would potentially be the number of occupants, because that changed, the septic requirement changed with the new changes. So instead of requiring 50 gallons per day capacity per person, the new ordinance, starting in January, will be 75 gallons per day, so that would impact them. If this permit's granted, they'll have a window of time for this permit, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it ends up being, and then if they reapply, then they'd be under the new rule.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, a question for either the applicant or staff. So I wasn't able to get out there. It says access is from 65 Fifth Avenue, and it looks like they've got to come across half of a section to get to the parcel. Is that an easement driveway? Do you have an easement access? Is that your driveway?
No, that's our driveway.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Property used to all be in joint ownership, and when it was sold off, the access was kept.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, my question is with the recommendation from the Planning Commission, would you like to go with original recommendations, or would you like to go with the new ordinance?
Yeah, fair question. I think we'll come back to that here as we're just looking at the recommended conditions.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, any other questions for staff at this time or discussion? All right, then anyone here from the public on this agenda item? Seeing none, and Jennifer, we had no correspondence?
Correct.
Okay.
I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, motion by Sean, second by Rich to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, public hearing closed. So, any other discussion on this one? And Joe, you kind of segued to that. You know what, the septic thing, I see we have changes coming. My thought would be let's put those changes. It's just a couple of minor things here. What would that change the rental occupancy too?
Mr. Chair, I don't know that off the top of my head. I'd have to check with the septic expert on that. And then some of the other things would be the requirement to install cameras. I can't remember off the top of my head what the other items are, but the fact of the matter is they submitted their application before the rules were adopted, so the rules in effect today is what we should be working under.
Mr. Chairman, Jennifer, could we recommend approval and let's say limit it to 3 years with the new standards?
Mr. Chair, I believe we could, I mean, if we wanted to go that way, those would all become conditions. So we would take the standards, the new standards, and add them as conditions. As was mentioned, we have a January 1st date for those. So as Jennifer mentioned, we're operating under a current standard for the ordinance. They came in on time.
It came on time, yeah.
We would be seeking to change the rules of the game.
And complicating matters. I don't need to. Let's address this as it is.
Okay.
Well, and the reason I said that, Mr. Chairman, is, again, nothing, it's because this has been going on for 8 months. Now, not on a property like this. This is unique and good for you. But the complication for me is just like last time and the next one. So now we're going to be approving these with different ordinances and then come in with different ordinances. And then we're going to have this thing. So if we want, if you're not inclined to do that, I mean, the other option would be to obviously deny it and then make you come back in later, which I don't support. But I think just because we've already got, what, 40 of them out there now, but we haven't approved any for quite some time, and we even revoked one.
Yeah, we have approved a couple of them this year.
Yeah, this year, but it's been some time because this has been, the cleanest way would have been if the county would have done a moratorium like 5 townships did, and then got everything in order, and then consider that would have been the cleanest way, but we didn't do that. So I guess it's not I'm not going to fall on my sword over it, but it's just too bad that we can't have consistent rules knowing what that's going to be. So that's my question. Could we approve it with those new, and that's, I'll let you guys decide that.
This is why I asked about the transitional thing, because the new rules say, like if they're approved for 9 overnight, it would only be approved for like 14 or 15 during the day. Well, if you rent a place like this here, and you're going to have a family gathering, you might have one day where you might have 30, 40, 50 people or more there. And this place would lend itself to doing that much more so than some of the lake lots do.
There's pros and cons to doing things at the county level in changing the ordinances. So it helps address certain situations and it doesn't others. Now it kind of negatively impacts these types of properties. That's the downside of it.
See, that's where if you went by the old standards, there was a nighttime standard, but there was no daytime standard.
Go ahead.
I would like to point out, though, that it's not the old standard. I mean, I've heard that reference. It's the standard right now. And, I mean, yeah, the prior granted operations like this have different rules than the ones going forward, but you're going to have what I heard, there's 40 of them already that are going to be under different ones, and I think we did what was necessary to be brought in under those existing, not old, existing rules.
Yep, that's a fair point. However, on a planning commission perspective, while those are the rules that applied, when things are changing, that's where we have to use the judgment of is that a sound decision to approve something, knowing things are going to change. And because your point's valid, those are the current rules, but knowing where it's going and why, that's where we have. That's why there's an IUP process in place, and it's not just a permitted item. So,
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Okay. The 5 years is a request, correct?
Yeah.
Under the new, and we've adjusted the requests in the past. Is the new request, the new ordinance, I believe, is 3 years?
The new ordinance, their first request, it would be 2 years.
2 years. And so this could perhaps be a modification you could use, go with their request in all the other things, but make it for 2 years, and then if everything is working well, then we.
That's where my head was going, Joe. But, is that scary or is that a good thing? Joe? I don't know. No, but I was thinking just shortening the duration under the current rules as being as a way to handle it. But obviously, for feedback from the rest of the group, is that
I like sticking with the current rules because he's applying under the current rules. The time changing the time, I'm not too happy with, but willing to fall in line with that.
2 years okay? To stay in line with the current process?
Don't say it's not current, would be the new.
Say the
Sorry,
current,
the
what
new
we've currently
recommend-
been doing for the last how many applications?
You'd say 3?
3.
Okay.
And we need to be consistent, and we need to work under the current regulations.
Okay. So I'm hearing 3.
Those regulations don't change until January 1. And they've submitted their paperwork how many months ago to get the process going here.
So I'm hearing some 3s. Does anyone have any major objection to 3? Okay, so then we would change that in the conditions from 5 to 3 years.
Yep.
Which would make that 2025. All right. Any other discussion on this one before we go to findings of fact? Good. Okay. So, number 1, is the proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? Why or why not? I would say it is consistent with section 4.18, 6.62, and 9.4.6b of the Stearns County Land Use Ordinance number 439 to operate an IUP in this transitional area. Number 2 is does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? I'll list the applicable sections.
Mr. Chair, it does comply with the comprehensive plan goals and objectives. If we look at our business goals, number 3, to acknowledge tourism's economic value and the prospective contribution of this industry to both the diversity of the county economic base and the potential for growth.
Mr. Chair, I'd add on to that the living goals. Number 3, which is support housing options and give people in all life stages and economic means viable choices for safe and affordable homes as well.
All right, thanks, Sean and Jason. Number 3, is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood? I believe the conditions of this IUP, the number of uses, it's going to stay consistent in its rural setting to having people coming and going. It's not going to be an impact to the neighborhood. Does anyone see that differently? All right. Number 4, how has the applicant demonstrated that the standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied?
Mr. Chair, I believe it's 6 conditions listed on the staff report with the change to a 3-year permit.
All right. Thank you, Jason. And number 5, are there any other issues pertinent to this matter? I think it's pertinent. There will be some changes coming. And to the applicant's point, the current conditions are what we're approving this one for.
I think that's worth noting there. Yeah, have it in there, yeah, absolutely.
I think it's also pertinent that this particular site, a lot of the concerns brought up with the new regulations or new ordinances apply to properties that are set up a little bit differently than this one. And so towing that line is a little easier in this particular instance. So.
And certainly, yeah, we have to notice that almost every other one that we've had has been because of water, shoreline, neighbors, etc. This is a completely different and unique property that seems to be a whole lot more reasonable.
Agreed. All right. So unless there's any other discussion items, motion would be in order on this one.
I'll make a motion we approve.
All right.
With the 6 conditions and the change of 3 years instead of 5.
Okay. Very good. Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. So motion by Rich, second by Ken. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. So motion recommend approval will go to the board on the 25th. Thank you. All right, and that takes us to agenda item number 8. Now, this is a little bit different circumstance, and so before we dig into this one, my question would be, do we want to take the time to do that tonight, knowing there's a moratorium in place? So from a planning commission member, we could just basically recommend continuing it until later on, or we could hear it out. Leave it up to the group on how they want to go about this one.
Mr. Chair, I mean, so I guess a question for the staff. So we have the county ordinance, which is operating on one level. There's a township moratorium that's operating on another level.
Yep.
The two are independent. So we can either choose to recommend approval or recommend denial. If we recommend approval, the permit at the county level moves forward, but the township then denies the process. So we cannot we're not overruling the township moratorium, we're just following our county process.
Mr. Chair, Member Wienerman, that's correct. We do have a secondary piece, though, that relates, which is our regulations for food, beverage, and lodging, which within those standards, we ask that they meet all local standards. So we are not able to issue a lodging license because there's a township moratorium. So planning and zoning goes forward, food and beverage stops because of the moratorium. So 2 different things happening within the same department, but yes, they are different.
Well, okay. You're right one way or the other. You're saying so hear it out. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Jennifer, my understanding was the township has asked us not to approve it or not to take it up. Is that right?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Member Bertram. We did receive an email from the township, asking the Planning Commission respectfully request the Planning Commission table the subject until the town board lifts the moratorium. In light of the recent decisions made by the county commissioners, the township has invited our office out to their meetings, and then they're going to discuss the proposed changes. This is from Heidi Stahlberger, the clerk. She says, I suspect the 2 most likely outcomes would be that their commission may continue to discuss more restrictive standards, or may make a recommendation to the board to accept the standards put in by the county and lift the moratorium. So they were asking that the county table it. I will just mention to the property owner and applicant in this case did fly in from out of state to attend the meeting, so I don't know if that bears on if you want to hear from her or not, but I thought I'd mention that.
So if we table it or continue it, we have a 60-day clock.
Yes.
So regardless, if we table this for township moratorium decision and blow the clock, then it's approved.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, good point. Let's see here. Commissioner Wienerman, we do have a time frame we have to operate within. So, and we are allowed, so it's a 60-day time window. We are allowed to extend that for an additional 60 days if we have reason to. So we could extend it out until early January.
And Mr. Chairman, we've continued many things where the applicant has signed
a waiver,
which would also allow a longer time.
One other thing to point out too, this application, like the previous one, was submitted under today's rules. So with the application we have, the today's county rules apply. Of course, if the township changes their rules, then that would be a whole nother thing they'll have to work with on the township end of things.
Yep. I get it. That's why I bring it up, because there's a reason you would apply to try to beat the clock. That also can cause problems when there's a reason that the rules are changing based on public hearing and period. So thus the fun spot we get to be in on the planning commission. And so the question is for the group, do we want to go through it? We have an applicant that came in from out of town, or table it?
The sensitive part, Mr. Chairman, I think should be, we went through the comprehensive plan process. There was 3 meetings. I vividly remember one in Albany. And townships, and I've heard a lot from townships in the last 5 months. Trust me. And they're saying, on one end, you say, you want our input, you want us to weigh in, and the other end, when we weigh in, you ignore us. That really weighs heavily on you. Which one is it? Do we want their input? And again, I feel sorry for the townships, because if the county would have done the moratorium, all of this could have happened at the same time, and then the townships could have considered what they wanted to do. Maine Prairies, I was at their meeting this month. They're looking at doing something much more restrictive. So again, they have that right. But right now, my 100% sensitivity is when you've got a local unit of government that is engaged, that did do a moratorium, that is respectfully asking us to continue it one way or another, I think that just flies in their face if we don't do that. And then we're going to go back to them and say, but we want to hear from you and we want you to be a part of this. So that's the issue. The issue isn't whether or not we should allow these or not. They will be allowed. And I'm not opposed to short-term rentals with a more standard conditions. But I think it would be disrespectful.
I agree with you, particularly in this case, in that you can't, when there's a moratorium in place at the township level, it's there for a reason. So, I mean, I'd prefer not to see any applications come through in that particular instance, because it gets you in this spot. But do we want to hear it, or do we want to just recommend tabling it?
Mr. Chair, we just tabled one a month ago from a half a mile down the road. What would that send message to those people if we listened to this one and didn't listen to theirs?
Table it. All right. Yeah, come on up because you're the applicant, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was going to recommend that since they made the effort to be here, we can hear it, but as far as taking action, I would be prone to say we take no action in respect for the townships. Likewise, when counties deal with things they would like to have control over things, they would, and don't like the state to interfere. And the state also, when they have control over things, does not appear that they would like to have the federal government interfere. So with respect to the township, I think we should.
Yeah, we could send it to you, but then what would you do with it?
That's it. We could, even if we pass it, the township could deny it.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, could I just, for the record, introduce what we're even talking about?
And I'll do that, actually, yeah. So we're going to go that far. I just wanted to kind of get that discussion started. So, all right, number 8 is to consider an interim use permit request submitted by Pamela Winter of Oakley, California, according to sections 4.18, 6.62, and 9.9.6A of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439. The request is to operate a vacation home rental located on Lot 1 and part of Lot 2 in Hastling's Addition, lying at the corner of Oyster Point Road and Canals Lake Circle in Section 28, Wakefield Township. Property address is 16553 Oyster Point Road in Cold Spring. Real quick, members who visited the site, Jason.
Yes.
Sean.
Yes.
I did as well. Ken.
Yes.
Mike. Rich. Jeff.
Yes.
And Joe. All right, very good. And then applicant, you're here. If you can state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Pamela Winter. My actual address is 29 Chelsea Court in Oakley, California. The property address is 16553 Oyster Point Road in Cold Spring. So just a little bit of clarification, if I could. So this is my childhood home that I grew up in. Was able to actually purchase it back a few years ago. Nothing had been done for 38 years, so I recognized that I needed to remodel it, which I have been doing. So I actually talked to Nick. Unfortunately, he left, but and these are some pictures of the before and after. But about doing this permit last January, having no idea there'd be a moratorium, right? And we pulled the roof off. So step 2 of your process is when were the windows installed? I had no windows, so I couldn't give a date. So I'm not trying to beat any dates or system. This has been in the works for over a year. Almost 2. Yeah, so, and I know that Wakefield Township was concerned about property value. I don't think what I've done here is, put any property's value down, but I probably did this at the worst possible time on the planet, right, as far as the cost of remodeling, supply chain issues, blah, blah, blah. It's been a nightmare. So now I am in a position where I can't recoup anything to keep, even pay my debtors. So that's why I decided to continue with this, honestly. That's why I decided to continue. And I looked at, so I'm sorry for being a mess, but so I looked at what you were going to do as far as the changes. And in fact, we intended, so this is going to be my property manager who's a mile away, by the way. So the night, October 3rd, when you discussed all the changes, my oldest daughter's dad decided to take his life. So I did not listen to it, but I did look at your red lines, your changes, and I got them all here, and there's nothing here that I can't comply with. I mean, as far as, everything that I see here, the emergency contact listed, the outdoor cameras, I've got cameras all over the place, on the place. Swim at your own risk, 4-inch letters, no worries. I mean, everything that you have in that addendum from your October 3rd meeting, I've read through. I've seen the strike-throughs, I've seen the changes. There's nothing that I cannot comply with. So it's just, and Heidi Stahlberger, by the way, I went to high school with, I talk to her all the time. I know what Wakefield's doing. They're waiting on you. They were waiting on you, and they wanted to adopt what you were going to implement, for reasons that I won't get into. But yeah, so, I mean, I understand everything that's happening. I am just begging to, move forward with this. It's been in the works for a year and a half, 2 years. So, anyway, I'm telling you, this is not something I'm just here to make money on. It's my childhood home. I went back in the family. I'm going to live there again one day when I retire. But right now, I can't do multiple mortgages and all the expenses to remodel this. So, you've got me in a bind. You've got me in a bind. So, I understand that you need to adopt the new things, and I'm happily willing to adopt whatever Wakefield says. There's nothing here that's going to be a problem for me. Anyway.
All right. Pam, appreciate the backstory. That helps. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, if I could add something, please. A couple of things. If we could get the property manager's name and address, and then the other thing I do want to point out, In the new rules, the one thing that this lot would not comply with is the lot size. It doesn't meet the lot width requirement due to the narrowness of the property at the lake. I just want to make sure that's known.
It's just the width at the lake?
Yep.
Oh, yes, the lake shore, okay. But that,
I mean, it's a
the
huge
property,
lot.
the property is, I mean, it's quite a,
And all of my neighbors know what I'm doing, all of them. I mean, this is like the Canals Lake bubble, we call it. Everybody's known me since I was a child. So they all know what I'm doing. There's nobody that's got a problem with it.
Okay. Jennifer, so just so I understand the process, now, if that wouldn't fall under the current ordinance, in the future, that would then require a variance, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if this application is not acted on and then they were to reapply under the new rules after January 1st, then they would have to request a variance, yep. Now, the other option is also if it's tabled, it's still the same application and it could be tabled and acted on maybe December, still under the current rules, possibly. We'd have to see how it plays out with the township. I don't know how quick the township's going to make any decisions.
Jennifer, question on that. So, does it matter when we act on it, or does it matter when they apply? So they've applied before the change of the ordinance, so that if we get ridiculous and act on this in March, doesn't matter. We're still acting on it under the rules we have today.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Wienerman, that would be correct. Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, question for the applicant then. Sorry, Joe. You know what? You had your hand up. Go ahead.
I was just wondering, is it possible for the township to lift, now that we have our policies, is it possible for the township to lift the moratorium so then we pass it next month?
Okay, so fair question. Question for the applicant from a timing perspective. What's the timing due to you when we're talking a month or two?
I mean, it's obviously going to hurt financially, but I mean, I've missed the season. So, I mean, I feel like at this point, I don't know how much more harm it will do, but I mean, the last time I talked to Heidi Stolberger, I thought they were just waiting for you guys, Stearns County, to make your decisions, and they were going to adopt whatever you came up with. I mean, I literally talked to her quite a bit, and that's what I thought they were going to do. So I didn't think this would be an issue tonight, honestly. But obviously, they haven't gotten to that point yet.
No, they have it coming up. We'll have the public hearing portion come up if we get to that. So, all right. So then, I think we're still sitting in a spot where we could go. We could hear the whole process here. The tricky part is it's more likely to reach a denial point if we go through the whole process versus tabling it, and then the tabling thing, and I know the month or two is a challenge, but that then allows us to create conditions that tie to the current standard. However, we could still run it under the current one versus having to go through the variance process later on, which is a whole nother step and a whole nother, application process. So thus we're allowing time to get most of those requirements formally in place to be consistent with the new ordinance, and then have the township basically getting approval on that too. That makes a big difference. If that discussion happens and you talk to Heidi and we get a recommendation from the township as well, now we're not, as a county, superseding or undermining what they're doing as well. And it costs a month or two during the winter, and so, but that would be an option for you.
I mean, that sounds probably, I mean, I trust that's the best recommendation at this point.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're okay with that, then we would have a motion to recommend tabling that we would.
So what steps do I need to take then?
To continue it, I'm going to
we'll check on make sure we get the timing for the 60 days.
The 60 days, okay. And then, you know, there's the option. You won't necessarily have to be back, and you can attend virtually for the next meeting as well, so that takes some of that portion of it out. But
we'll work out some of the bugs.
Thank you. I mean, this thing, I have to leave it empty because I'm trying to comply by the rules, right? Yeah. So, and that's not good either. It's not good. I spent everything I have to redo this. I have to leave it empty.
Yeah, Pam, I feel free there that the timing that's a tough one. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, Jennifer, they could rent it out like for a year. They could get a permanent renter long-term.
I could do
You are
that.
aware of that, right?
I am aware of that. So part of the reason I got it back into the family was to try and get like my 82-year-old mother up here. So we're all having Christmas here. So, you know, if I do like a long-term rental, I can't let my family in it. So that kind of defeats the purpose of getting it back in the family. But I understand. Yeah, I could
I
do
know that, Mr. Chairman, for the financial part, I hear you, so the financial part, and I know long-term rental arrangements for a family farmhouse, for example, and they wanted to gather there for Christmas.
Right.
Well, the person who rented it to was more than happy to
I
vacate
tried.
the house for a week.
I was trying to, actually. The contractor that actually did the remodel, I tried to get, he was going to rent it, but then the Christmas thing was a problem, so.
Okay.
And I need
So there are options, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah.
Need a motion?
We should.
I think you did state your name and address, didn't you? Oh, I'm sorry, please do that. I thought you had.
My name is Donna Pung, and my address is 105 11th Avenue North in Cold Spring.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't.
All right, so motion to recommend continuing this to future meeting, hopefully next month. And there's the potential to do that, yep. So do I have anyone making a motion?
Thank you, I appreciate it. If I had any idea, I would have filed for this when I bought the place, and I wouldn't have this problem. But I thought I had to remodel it first.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to table.
All right. A motion by Sean, second by Rich. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Aye. All right. So Jason was a nay on that. Yep. Thank you. Public hearing, if it was on agenda item number 8, public hearing is closed on that one. So. All right. So that's agenda number 9. Item number 9, that's to review and make recommendations on proposed feedlot-related ordinance changes. Becky, you going to take us through that one?
I am. Good evening. Becky Schlorf, Stearns County Environmental Services, Ag and Water Resources Division Supervisor. The changes are, several of the changes are cleanup, so I'm just going to go over the 2 key changes, unless you want to hear more about the others. So the pages are numbered on the top right-hand corner, so page 8. This change is related to property line. About a year and a half ago was the last feedlot-related ordinance change, and that was to change the dwelling to feedlot setback and vice versa when there was at least one common owner. This proposed change is essentially the same except for the property line, when again there's at least one common owner. Some of the situations with the dwelling setback change involved property splits for farm finance purposes, and it's anticipated that the property line, the feedlot setback, will also be an issue. So unless the county wants to see those continue to go through the variance process and the public hearing process for that, this change would prevent those variances.
Becky, just a question on that. Is that an owner of a record, Or is that a legal owner of the parcel?
It is the legal owner of the parcel. So if you're maybe getting at the contract for deed situation.
Well, I'm just thinking, so I own one parcel. I marry somebody who owns this parcel and the next one, but my spouse's name doesn't appear in any of the documents.
So we would go by the legal document, the name on the deed. So if at least one of those names is in common. So if there's no,
Going through the Board of Adjustment last year, I like that change. It seems like it frustrates me when you see those come through, needing a variance. So I like that.
If there's nothing further on that change, the next proposed key change is on page 10. And so this proposed language is no change from what has been in place the last 20 years. However, the statute is a 2-year statute, and it had been renewed every year until 2022. So the ordinance is all it prohibits open-air swine basins, and reference to the statute needs to be removed to maintain clarity on the restrictions. Just to point out, though, as some of you may recall, a few months back we had the Andersons in for a truck wash basin, and that was not an open-air situation, but the truck wash basins that are washing swine trucks are not considered under that statute. They were not considered to be prevented. So we would do the same thing. By removing the statute language here, we would operate the same way. The truck washes for swine trucks would not be prohibited or restricted or having to have a cover. The Andersons did in that case propose a cover anyway.
So in terms of this, with the statute language being removed, Stearns County is going to be more restricted than the state statute.
Correct. As far as how many we currently have in the county, I mean, this is preventing new, but it also puts limitations on existing. I don't have a count on that. So there's none that I know of. The state, when I asked them this week, said that they thought there was one under an NPDES or federal permit, but I did not hear back from them on the specifics of that. And then, of course, as I said, this has been in statute, state law, for 20 years, so we haven't had any interest in anyone wanting to have an open-air swine basin, and I believe the technology or the reason for it was odor concerns. I don't have anything further. The main reason for the ordinance change was to cover this statute change.
Mr. Chairman, I couldn't hear Jason's question. I didn't understand the answer. We're more restrictive than the state. Was that the question?
Correct. It is, yes.
And why is that?
Because the state legislature did not renew the statute that has been in place for 20 years. They renew it every 2 years, and in 2022 that was not done. So now we're cleaning up the language to not reference the state statute that doesn't exist anymore, and it would become then more restrictive than the state is in 2022.
So out of 87 counties, how many other counties have done this?
I have heard others have done it and are doing it. I don't have a count. So it falls on the local governing units to decide whether to allow open-air swine basins, new ones, or existing expansions instead of the state.
And potentially, Mr. Chairman, I assume the state could act on it. Is this what you're recommending on the counties that did do it? Is that similar to what those counties did?
Correct. My understanding is that they're basically putting it into ordinance what was in statute, which is what this is.
So there is a chance that the legislature might put in statute what they were doing every 2 years?
Yeah, there's always that potential.
Until it doesn't happen. Well, you know, my guess, like we use the Andersons for example, or as an example, maybe that's right or wrong, but I know they referenced the safety when it comes to airborne pathogens and things like that that can impact, obviously, swine herds. So I think there's some really good reasons for why you don't have those open manure pits, even outside the smell. It has a lot to do with the health of the animals, but so I think that's a good thing that we do that. Good. So, does any other comments? I think these are good. Everyone's feeling good about those. So take that feedback on. Do we want a motion on that?
Yeah, a motion for a recommendation to council.
Okay, so.
Motion that we approve the changes.
Okay, good. Motion made by Rich to recommend the changes. Second by Ken, the feedlot guy. Perfect. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, very good.
Yep.
As a presentation or in consent?
It is going to county board on Tuesday as a consent agenda to set the public hearing date for this.
Okay, thank you, Becky. Then we have number 10, which is to approve the minutes, and I had a note on those.
Change on that.
Go ahead on the
I want my name listed where it says members present. I was present at both these meetings. In fact, you look at the minutes and you'll see my name.
And you think you have to take?
It's not in there.
You just have to
somebody missed me there.
And I was not at the second one. I thought it might add me.
With those changes, I would make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Absent on the 22nd.
Oh, good, you had me option.
was Commissioner Lenzmeyer present?
Yes.
I'm in the right spot there.
The audience.
He was in the audience. He was in the...
We just need to add Rich Blankish to the members present. Commissioner Persky was not there, but we did mention, I think, that Commissioner Lentz,
No, we did not. He was there on the 15th. He was not there on the 22nd.
We will add him as the liaison present.
Cool.
Thank you.
Good, and with those changes, Rich had a motion, seconded by Mike. Thanks, Mike. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
Oh, and I will, yeah, great point. I'm going to abstain from the second meeting as well, but I approve the first. In a hurry, trying to get this done before 10. Does anyone have any other discussion? Otherwise, we're going to adjourn the meeting. Motion by Rich, second by Jason. All those in favor? Aye. Motion adjourned.